Hi guys, my name is Alyssa and welcome back to my channel. Today is a little bit bittersweet because I am finally doing the last Saturn video. If you've been following along with this, it's taken me forever, which I heard from a really nice person. Whenever you spend time talking about a certain planet, you start taking on that planet's shit. And Saturn is full of delays and lessons and, change and trying to make you better at the end of it. So I hope that this video is just better. I'm also in my Saturn return, so that does something. It's just been very Saturn-y around her. This is Saturn in Cancer, so it does affect you if you have Saturn conjunct Moon, which a lot of people have. And this does affect you if you have Saturn in the 4th house, which people have. So even though Saturn in Cancer, you guys might be few and far between as far as watching my videos, I know the rest of you have something like this. Saturn conjunct Moon is so freaking common. I was just so surprised while Saturn's been in Scorpio how many of my Facebook friends who were pregnant had their children when the moon was also in Scorpio, creating a conjunction. Right now we're just going to talk about Saturn in Cancer, Saturn in the 4th house, what this means for your life. What does this bring you? Now obviously, what is Cancer? What is the moon? What is the 4th house? It is emotional, it is moody, but it's also family oriented, it's nurturing, and it's kind of, the most important thing in the entire world to most people are their family connections, okay? The lowest part of your chart is the 4th house. The IC is your 4th house cusp. This means this affects you at the deepest part of you. Having your Saturn in Cancer, having Saturn conjunct Moon, having Saturn in the 4th house, it is such a deep part of you. It is your emotional wasteland, okay? This means that your emotional wasteland is actually pretty, stunted, confusing. Like, do you have emotions? I don't feel my emotions. I just must not have any. Well, I'm sorry, but you do. They're just like really fucked up. Other than just this emotional fucked upness, it has a lot to do with where you came from. Now, I like to think of Saturn and Sagittarius as like the easiest place for Saturn because like it's all in your head, because Sag is like in your head. And I like to think of Saturn and Cancer as like the hardest placement because this isn't in your head. This is where you were born. This is what you grew up in. Then this is what you were trying to recreate in your own life. Now, don't quote me on that. Like, if you're like, I'm a Saturn and Sag, my life is not easy. Like, I'm sorry. Cry me a river. You Saturn and Cancers, you're the ones who have it shitty. This is why people say I'm biased. Whatever. I'm just honest. What I feel. So if this isn't what you feel, then like that's great. Real life is happening with the Saturn and Cancer. It's like, where did you come from? You came from a stunted family. Maybe it just wasn't loving. Maybe it was loving, but there was definitely don't feel emotions. Don't cry out loud. Like, don't do this. A lot of you suffered from divorced parents and a mother who is trying to do it all. That is what a Saturn and Moon conjunction normally means, is that the father is just absent, abandons the family, or the mother takes the children away from the father, or maybe your father passed. These things can happen because all of a sudden you don't have this tight family unit anymore. You have a broken home, and you came from a broken home. And so you take on an emotional responsibility way too early. And an emotional responsibility has a lot to do with not feeling emotions because you feel like you have to be mature. And so what is maturity? Not feeling emotions. Too bad that's not true. Too bad feeling emotions is completely mature. completely good for you, healthy, and anybody who goes into therapy knows you got to learn how to express your emotions. But here is the stuntedness that comes with, I can't feel this. I'm gonna be resilient, and I'm gonna get over it, and I'm just gonna live my life, and I'm not gonna worry about it. But you have to worry about it. You have to really honestly and truly give a shit about your emotions. Let's just go on from the emotional part here, because Cancer is also home. All right, so you say you come from a broken home. Now you're trying to recreate it. There's a big issue with recreating what you don't know. How are you going to have a stable foundation and a stable home when you don't really know what that looks like? Okay, you don't really know how to do that. So you're trying. A lot of you get married really early or have really long relationships with pretty shitty people or the wrong person. You jump into something for security. If I'm alone to my thoughts, I will get emotional and I will flood, and I can't have that. So you end up jumping from rock to rock, always looking for someone to be emotionally supportive, to give you some sort of security so that you don't have to deal with your emotions. Trying to make videos while I have a baby. You just woke up. You were supposed to be taking a nap. How am I supposed to finish this when you don't want to take a nap anymore? Because Saturn is about your lessons, and Saturn wants you to learn your lessons. It doesn't want you to look for other people to help you express your emotions. It doesn't want you to rely on other people to give you what you are. You need to find this within yourself. And so you're looking through people, and you're normally looking in all the wrong places. You're doing all the wrong things, and you eventually get put into positions where everything that you were building, that life, that family life you were getting, gets pulled out right from under you. You might have been in your 20s and had a kid with somebody who decided they wanted to not be with you anymore and take the kid away. These things can happen because you were starting to build your family, your home, on the same sand that you were born with. It's not just the significant other that takes it from you. Sometimes you choose to leave because it hits you that this is wrong. This is not what you want. This is exactly like what you had, or possibly even worse. So you might even see a lot of Saturn and Cancers who actually finally settled down around the age of 35, who have tried it, maybe dated a lot of people for a long time, serial monogamous, whatever, trying to lay down a family, get this emotional sort of support, really getting their family at the ripe old age of 40. You're thinking, wow, I already have stuff. Like, I'm young and I already have shit. You're telling me that I'm going to lose it. Not necessarily. I'm telling you that you're going to go through some hardships with it. It's not going to be what you expected. Maybe you've already realized that you aren't going to get what you thought that you were getting when you signed up for marriage or whatever, a family in the first place. Or maybe you're just in this long committed relationship and never really feeling like you can marry that person because they didn't represent everything that you wanted. So you just stayed with them because you were afraid of being alone. Afraid of being alone because you'll be face to face with who you are. You might have to look in the mirror and see that there might be a monster staring back at you. The one who is helping you self-defeat yourself. Yeah, right? I think a lot of celebrities actually have Cancer issues and moon issues. That's why they seem to always be in different relationships, can't really figure out someone to, be married for forever. They use their characters as a way of exploiting their emotions, a way of getting in touch with their feelings, because it's so hard to do that. Emotions drive people, whether they want to admit it or not. Feelings, intuitiveness, sensitiveness, all that stuff is driving people. It is driving you to make your decision. So you think you're not even thinking about it. But in fact, that's the worst kind, because it's forcing you. Emotions are water. There's nothing stronger than water. There's nothing stronger than this Cancer crap that is coming up behind you, pushing you to do things. But when you're not paying attention to it, it's when bad things happen. You're just afraid to get in touch with the emotions, of saying that you are an emotional person, of saying that you need somebody. And you know what? You are codependent. You jump from rock to rock. You are an emotional human being. And that is why you have so many tests and lessons on this, because you keep trying to hide them. You keep trying to pretend that you're too mature for emotions, and you don't realize that that's stupid. So you get put into these emotionally vulnerable situations, having a child taken from you, unable to see, your kids grow up, or unable to see, your own family get together and love each other. Never really fully got along with your siblings. And now you're adults and you just keep trying. You keep trying. But the problem is that maybe they're kind of assholes. I'm sorry, Remy. Maybe they're just not there. Maybe they're not worth your time. And maybe it's time to build your own family. So you're put into these very emotional situations. The world's like, so what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be smart about what's about to come out of you? Or are you just going to let it flood you? See, a lot of Saturn and Cancer people make very bad decisions when it comes to their family because they're too flooded with emotions and they just don't want to deal with it. To be emotionally mature, you have to be able to see on the opposite side of your flooding, to see on the opposite side of all those emotions that seem to come out of nowhere. And it's very hard to do that when you think you're not emotional. You might look back and find out the most important decisions that you've ever made in your life have been, completely forgettable because you probably weren't present. Your emotions took over, made the decision for you, and you're like, how did this even happen? How did I just sign my rights over? I didn't know what to do, and so I just gave up. And I let somebody else take over, and they didn't have my best interests at heart. And those things are what Saturn and Cancer is trying to help you overcome. Learn to process through your emotions. Learn to be strong even in the presence of something that is sad and hurtful. And don't hide. You can't hide. Every time you hide, every time something happens, you get something worse that comes out of it. You get sadness and you get pain that comes out of the fact that you don't want to deal with something. Because see, Remy can't see past his emotions. He's a baby. If I wanted to be a really horrible mom, I'm going to tell him that these emotions he's having are stupid and that they aren't okay. And that he's not allowed to be like that because, maybe he's a boy. Boys aren't allowed to cry, right? I would just tell him that, I'm sad. You need to take care of me because you're my kid. You don't get to be sad. You need to be mature and you need to handle my emotions that I haven't dealt with. I can be totally horrible parent to my child. I can be like, my kid hates me. And I can put that on him. He hurts my feelings. I can put that on him. But I'm not going to. Because I don't want him to be emotionally stunted. Because, seriously, if he feels his emotions now and he's not allowed to talk about his emotions, to feel sadness, then he's never going to learn how to process them. And he's going to be a baby when he's 30. And maybe that's what you kind of feel like sometimes. Like you're a baby and you're 30. Do you feel like a baby when you're 30? No, you don't want to feel like a baby when you're 30. You find people who you feel are emotional because you feel strong and that you can support them and take care of them and change them and make them not so crazy. You're dating people or marrying people who are crazy and who will drag you down and who you are not strong enough. To be emotionally strong and emotionally mature, you have to deal with emotions, and that's something that I feel like you just get wrong all the time, which creates these horrible situations. But eventually, and that is why normally Saturn and Cancer, Saturn in the 4th house, Capricorn moon, Saturn conjunct moon, you find your emotional security, you find your family late into your 30s. Because that's when you find that person who is strong emotionally, who can actually help you. You can have the fulfillment of the family that you always wanted because you're ready for it. Babies are moody. They go up and down. Adults do that too. When you have no control over that, you can't see it, you pretend like it's not there. You think that just controlling the outcome of how it makes you look, you can push it down, it doesn't fix it. It doesn't make it better. It's still there, you're just not seeing it. And maybe you should just learn that you do deserve a family. You do deserve love. Learn that you are worth it. To fight for you as a parent, to fight for you as a child. You are a good person who deserves good things. Right, Remy? Right? Do they deserve that? You do. Anyway, that's your Saturn in Cancer. Thank you for sticking this Saturn series out with me. Want to say bye?